What's going on, YouTube, fam? It's your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of the Baltimore Way, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. Definitely watch this video to the end to hear the full story and all the details in the case. For my day one fam, y'all already know it's all love. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. If you're new to the channel and you feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. Oh yeah, feel free to share the channel with your peoples. Everybody is welcome. Before I get into the story, I want to give a special shout out to Ms. Lauren DeBrungeon for supporting the channel. Your support is definitely appreciated. Forgive me if I said your name wrong. I was trying to sound it out, but either way, you already know it's all love. Let's get right into the story. When we wake up and leave the house every day, the main goal is to make it home safely. Most of us try to handle our business, stay out the way, and avoid confrontation. While some people feel that way, you definitely have a flip side to that. People that wake up angry, leave the house either looking for trouble or bringing a bad energy with them. By now, we all know that's just the world we live in. You can't control other people and how they feel or what they do. Only yourself. In a lot of inner cities, people hop on public transportation to get them from point A to point B. As a fellow Baltimorean, we all know the MTA can get crowded, loud, and you might see some things from time to time. But for people without vehicles, it's better than walking. But we are in a weird climate in the world where emotions are high, people are zapping out for petty reasons, and it seems like crashing out and sitting in a cell is the cool thing to do for some people. So for us trying to play it cool, stay to ourselves, and take care of our kids, just walking outside comes with danger because you never know what type of time the next person is on. But despite all that, you gotta live. But how do you deal with individuals that are looking for a reason to do something to somebody or to show you they are like that? You can stay out the way, but unfortunately, trouble can sometimes find you in places you wouldn't even think of. And on this episode of the Baltimore Way, we'll be discussing a recent case of a confrontation on a city bus that came to a fatal end. In November of this year, 30-year-old William Womack was navigating life in Baltimore. Described as a family man who really stayed to himself and took care of his 2 daughters. William, being the only boy and oldest of 4, had 3 sisters, so he was protective by nature. The young father was also very close to his mother. So on December 1st of this year, he made sure he let her know, like, "Ma, I'm heading out to buy your granddaughter some shoes," in reference to one of his daughters. She stated, "All right, see you in a few." He left out and hopped on the MTA to go shopping. As he got on the bus, there was another man already boarded with a ski mask and glasses on. Trying to get a seat on the crowded bus, William made a mistake and bumped into the man. He said, "Excuse me," and proceeded to walk to the back, not thinking nothing about it. But the man followed him, asking, like, "You ain't see me standing right there?" William told him, "I said, excuse me." But the man wasn't trying to hear it, as he continued to get loud. As the 2 men went back and forth for a minute, William was about to exit the bus before it stopped on South Utah Street, downtown, before multiple shots went off. As people screamed, the shooter ran off the bus, but William was already hit. BPD was called to the location, and William was rushed to a local hospital, but unfortunately, he wouldn't survive his injuries. Back on the scene, police talked to witnesses and the bus driver, and found out the men were arguing over a shoulder bump. Police was even shocked that someone was bold enough to let off shots on a crowded bus at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The MTA provided footage of the incident and a picture of the suspect, but his face was covered. As William's family received the news, they were devastated. His mother let it be known her son wasn't perfect, but he was a family man, only interested in taking care of his daughters. Now he was gone, right before the holidays, over something she felt was senseless. The still image was released to the news, with police asking for any information. People in the community who ride the bus every day couldn't understand it, as one man spoke out about people in the community needing to control their emotions. But as William's family was left to grieve, days would go by with no one being taken into custody. until police started receiving tips on a man in a picture. People stated it was 61-year-old James Richburg. James had a few run-ins with police, including all the way back in 1996, where he was sentenced to 25 years in prison for armed robbery. Being a convicted felon at that point, by law, he couldn't own a gun. During his time, he wrote the judge, stating he had an addiction and needed help. So he asked to be sent to a treatment facility. As he stated, he was ashamed for his actions. Fast forward to 2019, James was back in the streets and got jammed up again with another gun, getting him a 5-year sentence for being a felon in possession of a firearm. But now, at 61 years old, James had a new warrant out for murder. Just a few days later, in a crazy twist, James was riding the MTA bus again when it was stopped not too far from where William was shot at in the 1600 block of North Fulton Avenue. And on December 9th of this year, he was arrested and taken into custody, charged with first and second degree hit, along with other charges, and held without bail. As William's mother got the news, she felt a little relief, but felt it still wouldn't bring her only son back. She stated James' family could still see him, but she will never see her son again. And she would have said a lot more if she would have knew that was the last time he would walk through the door. The whole incident was caught on the MTA cameras, but as of now, the case is new and hasn't made its way to trial yet. And James is innocent until proven otherwise. Rest in peace to William. I send my prayers and condolences to his family, his 2 little girls who now got to go without a father, his sisters who now got to go without their big brother, and his mother without her only son. I pray they get the strength to heal from this situation. James, at 61 years old, is considered an old head who has been down before. He's supposed to know you can't have a complex like that. At that age, it definitely should be easier to let things go. If the man bumped into your shoulder, I get it. But once he said, "Excuse me," the situation was over. For me riding the 35 back in the day on Monument Street to the 55 out Towson, I definitely know sometimes the bus is overpacked. You got to stand up, shoulder to shoulder, and it definitely can become frustrating, but it's a way to get around. It's wild. At 61 years old, Unc was still allegedly willing to crash out over a shoulder bump. Yeah, man, crazy story. Rest in peace to William. I definitely send my prayers to his family. But y'all leave it in the comments. I ain't gonna talk too much more about this one. I appreciate you if you made it to the end. Y'all already know it's all love, fam. This is another episode of the Baltimore Way. It's your boy Tony 2 times. I'm out. What's going on, YouTube, fam? This your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of the Baltimore Way, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. Definitely watch this video to the end to hear the full story and all the details in the case. Y'all keep up with me. It's like 2 stories in one. For the day one, fam, y'all already know it's all love. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. If you're new to the channel and you feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. Oh yeah, feel free to share the channel with your peoples. Everybody is welcome. Let's get right into the story. In life, as most mature, get older, we look back at our mistakes and realize we had choices. Sometimes it might not seem that way due to certain circumstances. For example, if you grow up in an environment where all you see is red tops and blue tops being sold, shots being fired, people losing their life, your mother or father might be getting high, and you are forced to take care of yourself or learn how to survive early, it might put you in a mindset like I don't have a choice. Either I'm going to get out here and get in the mix, look out for me and mine, or I'm going to sit back and see how everything plays out. For most that are young and impressionable, instead of going to school, getting a job, it's easier to adapt to your environment. We learn how to hustle, finesse, rob. Some even learn how to take lives. Because in our mind, it's Doug eat Doug, survival of the fittest. We often don't notice the good around us, even in a bad situation, because we see things as we want to see them. It's hard to tell a man that has a wife and kids with no job or money, with an eviction note on his door, no worries, yo. You got to interview Monday, because Monday isn't guaranteed, but this lick today is. But with that, it's still a choice, And when you choose to step out here and play in the field, it's cool when you are the star player. But the question is, can you live with the consequences when you get benched? And on this episode of the Baltimore Way, we'll be discussing the case of a man that was backdoored by his own goddaughter for his casino winnings. Lexis Hart and her little brother, Jaheim Battle, grew up in East Baltimore. Some say they had a tough life, but some say they had people around them that really loved them and cared for them. Jaheim was described as many inner city kids, always outside and bad, to the point family and friends even thought the young man was missing back in the day, and there was a post online to help them find him. Lexis was the typical young lady growing up in Baltimore, liked to be around her friends and to have fun. Things would start changing for the siblings once they realized their environment was kind of rough, and it really hit Lexis hard when one of her close friends lost his life at a young age. Back in 2011, Marquise Hall, who friends called Mark, was 16 years old when he was shot in the 500 block of North Lakewood Avenue in East Baltimore, and unfortunately, he wouldn't survive his injuries. Being with Marquise almost every day, his loss hit Lexis hard, but life went on, and the siblings grew up and went their separate ways. Fast forward to 2022, the city was on fire, and the homicide rate was sky high. On January 19, 2022, 3 men were hanging outside on Monument Street. They were at the time 28-year-old Tyrone Allen, who friends called TJ, 24-year-old Hassan Smith, who friends called Whoop, and 29-year-old Deshaun McGrath, who friends called Nut. Most might remember Nut from the viral 2018 video where a Baltimore City police officer was responding to a woman in the East Baltimore neighborhood. Feeling like the officer was out of pocket and handling the situation wrong, Nut asked the police why he was carrying it like that before the police put hands on him. I won't play the video, but it went viral. To the point, Nut hired the famous attorney in the city, Warren Brown, and was able to get a large settlement of $500,000 from the city. And the police officer responsible received 9 months in prison. But instead of leaving the area, Nut became a part of Safe Streets, a group in the city that advocates for the violence to stop, talk to the hoppers, and try to mediate situations before they get out of hand. Back to that day, all 3 of the friends were chopping it up when out of nowhere, somebody rolled by, letting off 25 shots, hitting TJ, Whoop, Nut, and another man. As BPD responded to the 2400 block of East Monument Street, one victim was rushed to Johns Hopkins, where he would survive. But unfortunately, the 3 friends would pass away from their injuries. As detectives in the community tried to piece together what happened, they had no leads or suspects, just 40 shell casings on the scene. As the community mourned the loss of the 3 men, more violence was happening throughout the city. In another part of town, 66-year-old Clarence Buckner was enjoying life, which in his case was well earned and deserved. Mr. Clarence was married, had been with his wife for many years, the father of 12 kids, 25 grandkids, and 3 great-grands. They had a big family. Clarence had worked for Baltimore City schools for over 20 years as a cafeteria cook, and now he was able to sit back and enjoy his retirement. In his downtime, he would sometimes hit the Horseshoe Casino in hopes of winning a few dollars or just to kill time. On January 30th, 2022, Clarence headed out the house to go gamble. To his luck, while at the casino, the man had hit big. He called a few close people, family and friends, to let them know, and told his wife he would be home soon. As he pulled up to his home in Northeast Baltimore, Clarence was in a good mood. His goddaughter Lexis, who was now 26 years old, had stopped by the house. She knocked on the door and asked could she use the bathroom. Clarence was in the room and told his wife he was about to change clothes so they could get ready to eat. When seconds later, a man ran in, gun in hand. He approached the couple and demanded money. Clarence's wife and Lexis seemed scared. To make sure he protected his wife and goddaughter, Clarence was thinking fast. As the robber told him, "You got 20 seconds to kick it out before I start shooting." He told the man the money was in the room, giving his wife and goddaughter a chance to run out the back door for help, and which they did. But seconds later, a shot went off, leaving Clarence's wife running from the neighbor's house back to their home to find Mr. Clarence on the bedroom floor, shot in the chest. Neighbors had already called BPD, but unfortunately, when they arrived to the scene, Clarence had passed away from his injuries. His wife explained he had just returned from the casino and had won a good bit of money. It seemed like somebody peeped the man and followed him back to the house. But again, police had no leads or suspects. It seemed Lexus had took another loss. As BPD put out a reward for any information, the months went by. As time went on, somebody's name would pop up in a triple hit on Monument Street. It was Lex's little brother, now 22 years old, Jaheim. But it was all just he say, she say. The young man had relocated to Pennsylvania, but had violated his parole and came back to Baltimore. When BPD tracked him down on a parole violation, he had a .40 caliber handgun with an extended clip in his possession, the same caliber gun that was used in the Monument Street shooting. He was taken into custody. While detectives looked for more evidence, as a few months went by, Jaheim spoke to police, but surprisingly, it wasn't about the Monument Street shooting, but the murder of Mr. Clarence. He confessed him and his sister Lexus had followed the man home from the casino. She walked in the house, being that it was her godfather, and he came in behind her, holding him and his wife at gunpoint. He stated he shot the man once Mr. Clarence's wife ran out the back door. With that confession and now evidence coming back pointing to Jaheim in the triple homicide, he was charged with 4 counts of first-degree hit, robbery, handgun violations, and other charges. Leading the police going to find Lexus. She was picked up and questioned. At first, she denied any involvement in setting her godfather up or helping her brother, but police already had information. She was charged with robbery, conspiracy, and even though she wasn't the person to pull the trigger, also first-degree hit charges. Mr. Clarence's wife spoke out to the news. She stated she was in denial Lexus would do something like that, especially considering the fact how much Clarence did for her to try to help her. She let it be known her husband worked hard to provide and didn't deserve to lose his life in a violent way, as the man was too loving and cared about people. Back on Monument Street, everybody had a little bit of closure about what happened to the 3 friends, even though no motive was ever given. As the case started making its way to trial, Lex's case came first, as her godfather's family filled the courtroom looking for justice. She copped out to the charges, but as the sentencing date came around, she told her attorney she didn't understand the plea agreement. She stated she didn't think nobody would get hurt in a situation, and it wasn't her plan, and she was used to others making decisions for her. But it was too late. Lexus, at 28 years old, received life, all suspended but 35 years in prison. As Clarence's family spoke out, his wife let it be known she was cruddy for doing what she did after everything he had did for her, and a lifetime in prison for the young lady still wouldn't bring Clarence back. Now it was time for Jaheim to go to court himself. Prosecutors agreed to get a young man life plus 20 years for the hit on Clarence to run concurrent with another life plus 20 years for the triple slam on Monument Street. But the judge felt they were 2 different situations, and for that reason, his 2 life sentences would be consecutive, meaning that the young man, at just 22 years old, might never get out of prison. Rest in peace to Tyrone, Hassan, Deshaun, and Clarence. I send my prayers and condolences to every family impacted by this situation. I don't know what went left with Jaheim. Maybe his environment, circumstances, survival, or revenge. Whatever his reasons were to crash out like that, only he knows. As far as Lexus, she claimed to always be a pawn, not being able to think for herself. It seems she been through a lot, but had people who loved her around, even though she stated her brother wasn't supposed to shoot and just take the money. It goes back to choices. When you choose to gamble with your freedom and life for a quick come up, you gotta accept what comes with that if you get caught. Now both still in their 20s, the siblings threw their lives away over nothing. But hey, that's the Baltimore way. Man, crazy story. Rest in peace, them 4 men that lost their life. I definitely send my prayers to their family. Let me know what y'all think about the situation in the comments. I appreciate you if you made it to the end. This is another episode of the Baltimore Way. This your boy Tony 2 times. Love, fam.
It's your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 times, and I'm back with another episode of the Baltimore Way. In this video, I'll be discussing the slaying of Nikia Collins, after an argument between her and another woman that escalated fatally. But before we get into this video, I'd like to say thank you to Terrell Scott for the kind donation. We appreciate you and thank you for supporting the channel. If you'd like to support the channel monetarily, you can find the information on the screen. And to support us for absolutely no cost, please hit that like button. Also, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already and join the Tony Two Times family. Tap that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future uploads. And of course, feel free to share this video with everyone you know. Also, if you'd like to see more episodes of The Baltimore Way, please click the link to the playlist in the description box after this video to get caught up. All right, let's get into it. Nikia Imani Collins was born June 9, 1999. She grew up in Baltimore City and graduated from Douglas High School. She became a mother to a beautiful daughter named Ashanti. Ashanti was the light of Nikia's life. Nikia was loved and cherished by her family. At 24 years old, Nikia had her whole life ahead of her. Her main goal in life was loving and caring for her daughter with the help of her father. However, things would take a tragic turn when Nikia was found unresponsive on the night of August 16, 2023, at an apartment complex on West Baltimore Street. Baltimore police responded to a report of a shooting in the 1000 block of West Baltimore Street between the Hollands Market and Poppleton neighborhoods around 11 p.m. When officers arrived, Nikia was lying in the apartment complex hallway, suffering from a gunshot wound. Medics unfortunately pronounced Nikia gone at the scene. Nikia's family was, of course, devastated by their loss. They now had the daunting task of telling her only child that her mother would not be coming back. Naturally, Nikia's family wanted answers and hoped that she would receive justice. Nikia was laid to rest on August 29, 2023. It would take law enforcement over a month to make an arrest in Nikia's slaying. On September 23, 2023, 24-year-old Sadaria Lucky of Randallstown was arrested and initially charged with first-degree hit in connection to Nikia's slaying. Investigators learned that Sadaria was the one to pull the trigger, ending Nikia's life. Sadaria Lucky is originally from Charlotte, North Carolina, according to her Facebook page. Sadaria is also a mother to a precious son. From my research, it appears that Sadaria lived in South Carolina before relocating to Baltimore sometime in 2022. Sadaria faced some traumatic events in the past that she had to overcome. Finding a fresh start seemed to be her primary goal. Sadaria also seemed like she had a hard time finding a stable romantic relationship once she relocated to Baltimore. Prior to that, she appeared to maintain a long-term relationship with someone she truly loved, but for whatever reason, it didn't work out. Sadaria came across to be fighting a lot of her own demons and expressed how much anger she was dealing with while desperately trying to find a way out of her own hell. On August 1st, 2023, Sadaria posted an email with an offer letter to become a correctional officer. Sadaria seemed to be excited for this next chapter in life. Sadly, things would all take a turn before she could start that new life she so longed for. Instead, 2 weeks after, on August 16, 2023, she took the life of Nikia Collins. Sadaria's last Facebook post posted on that day stated, "I don't give a F anymore. I'm tired of everyone. Days before that, it seemed like Sadaria was going through some sort of breakup and things began to escalate for her on an emotional and mental level. According to reports, the night Nikia was slain, she and Sadaria had gotten into an argument in the apartment complex hallway. Now, what the argument was about was not revealed in reports. During the argument, detectives say that Sadaria pulled out a weapon and fired it at Nikia's head. After Sadaria's arrest, she was taken to Central Booking and was held there until trial. In April 2024, Sadaria was offered 2 plea deals. The first one was a sentence of 60 years, suspending all but 20 years, with the first 5 years without the possibility of parole and 5 years of probation upon release for second-degree hits and having a loaded weapon on her person. The second offer was for the same charges, and it consisted of a sentence of 30 years straight, with the first 5 years without the possibility of parole and no probation. The defense attorney rejected both offers on behalf of Sadaria. Sadaria's trial was scheduled to start on August 5th and span 4 days. However, instead of going to trial, 25-year-old Sadaria pleaded guilty and was convicted of firearm use of a felony violent crime and voluntary manslaughter instead of second-degree hit for taking Nikia Collins' life on August 16, 2023. Sadaria was sentenced to 30 years in prison, suspending all but 15 years, with the first 5 years without parole. Her sentencing breakdown consisted of 20 years in prison, suspending all but 5 years without parole for firearm use in a felony violent crime, with 5 years of supervised probation, and 10 years served consecutively for voluntary manslaughter. Nikia's family was not pleased with the time Sadaria received for taking Nikia's life. Nikia's grandmother said in court, "You are heartless and cruel and getting far less than what you deserve." May Nikia Collins continue to rest in peace. My deepest condolences to her family and loved ones. I send them my well wishes. Whatever the situation was that night, I wonder if there was a way that it could have been resolved without reaching a fatal end. Nikia would still be here today to be a mother to her daughter. And as for Sadaria, she will miss a significant amount of time with her son and now have to deal with the aftermath of her consequences. But at least she has a second chance at life, unlike Nikia. Some people may think that anger is good and justifiable, but in the end, in my opinion, anger is always evil, especially the types of anger human beings possess. Fam, tell me your thoughts on this story in the comments below. All right, fam, that's it for this episode of The Baltimore Way. Thank you all so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This is your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 times. Until next time.
What's going on, YouTube, fam? It's your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of The Baltimore Way, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. Definitely watch this video to the end so you can hear the full story and all the details in the case. For my day one fam, y'all already know it's all love. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. If you're new to the channel and you feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. Oh yeah, feel free to share the channel with your peoples. Everybody is welcome. With that being said, let's get right into the story. One thing that always tripped me out about life It's how some people can come from the exact same environment, witness and experience the same pain and trauma, and take two different paths in life. For example, you might have two brothers coming up in the trenches. Their father in prison, mother getting high, and they all living in poverty. For one, he might put all that pain into finding a passion that one day will take him out of his situation, so he will never have to live life like that again. But for the other, they might fall victim, become a product of their environment, and get caught up in the same cycle as their parents did. I know everybody internalizes things differently, and what you might feel like is crazy and can cause trauma because you come from one environment could be just a normal day for somebody else growing up in a different environment. In life, as we get older, some people know how to let go, understand what they've been through, know where they come from, but look forward so they won't keep dwelling on the past, looking back just to walk into a brick wall. But it's like others get stuck, whether in a certain mindset or environment. For whatever reason, they can't let go of the pain, the trauma, and it becomes a part of them. They identify with it, and it shows in their actions, the way they carry themselves, treat people, even their relationships with family and friends. It's a harsh reality. For most though, that come from upbringings and circumstances like that, in order to let that pain go, change your mindset, and outgrow the old you, you have to want that for yourself. Your family can't make you, your kids, even having money or fame. As we see rappers and celebrities crash out every day. But when you put yourself in a box mentally, it's easy to end up in one physically, either in the ground or prison. And on this episode of the Baltimore Way, we'll be discussing how life in the Baltimore streets got real for a famous reality star's brother. I always tell people that ask about Baltimore and how it is that it's a beautiful city, but of course, it can get gritty. But that's any city in America. We all have experiences and stories to tell that make us who we are. Some good, some bad, but that's just life. For one young lady that caught America's attention, her story stood out on how she grew up in Baltimore. Her and her siblings went through the most, the system and all, but she still ended up being a great athlete, finishing high school and going to college. That's Krishan Rock. Even after her tough upbringing, the young lady had a warrior spirit and wanted to follow her dreams. She went to California and auditioned for TV shows, including Ultimate Tag, in which she landed a spot on the show. She went on and showed she was tough and athletic. After that, we all know she went on to show a more street, tougher side on reality TV shows like Baddies, before meeting rapper Blueface and getting into a controversial relationship. But hater or lover, most of us coming from Baltimore always rooted for the young lady as she went on to become who she is today. More of her family dynamics came out, and we were introduced to most of them, including her brother Mooki, who ended up on her and Blueface TV show. Straight out of Baltimore, he confronted Blueface about their toxic relationship and him putting hands on his sister, causing a viral reaction and moment on the show. At the time, Mooki, whose real name is Obadiah Malone, was 31 years old, gaining a little bit of notoriety and flying out to LA to film the show. He was put up in a condo and was living life. It seemed like things were on the up and up for the man. But behind the scenes, Mooki had real issues going on back home in Baltimore. In October 2022, a shot spotter alert notified BPD of a shooting in the 1900 block of Bradish Avenue. The victim, who walked into a local hospital, was suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. He was conscious though. The 39-year-old man, who we will call Tay for the sake of the story, stated he had an argument on the block with a childhood friend, and the man shot him. Witnesses told police the shooter was Mooki. They claimed the man zapped out after arguing with his cousin and one of his sisters, and instead of hurting one of them, he turned his attention and frustrations on Tay and shot him. Police looked at surveillance video that showed the vehicle leaving the scene, and also a man wearing a distinctive hoodie. Police got a search warrant for Mooki's girlfriend's house, in which they allegedly found the same hoodie the shooter was wearing. Eventually, he was taken into custody, charged with attempted hit, reckless endangerment, and other charges. Mooki maintained his innocence, but remained in custody. A few months would go by as Tay was recovering from his injuries. It seemed he would shake all the way back as he was attending physical therapy. But on a cold December day, while leaving the therapy session, shots went off, and Tay was hit again. Unfortunately, this time, he wouldn't survive his injuries. As the story went all over that Krishan's brother Mooki, who was a favorite on the show, was locked up on serious charges, people asked her how she felt about the situation. In one interview, she stated she felt like it was karma for the way he carried himself and treated people. She claimed he bit the hand that was feeding him and that he would rather be in the trenches of Baltimore than in a condo on a beach. But Mooki had bigger problems than what his sister was saying. The prosecutor was pushing the case and making a claim that seemed crazy, alleging if Mooki would have never shot Tay in the first place, the man would have never been going to therapy or got killed leaving the place. As the case made its way to court, Mooki's attorney argued he was possibly in LA filming with his sister when Tay was shot, and he was already arrested when the man lost his life, claiming he had no motive for the situation. They also pointed to the fact Mooki struggled with bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. They pointed out his troubled upbringing and past and asked could Mooki finally receive the help he needed. But prosecutors painted a different picture of an angry, violent man who wanted somebody to take his frustrations out on. In the end, Mooki was found guilty on all counts and sentenced to a crazy amount of time. 100 years, all suspended, but 40, leaving him with a 60-year sentence. Rest in peace to the man who lost his life. I send my prayers and condolences to his family. But I definitely don't understand, and I'm scratching my head, how they could say Mooki was responsible for the man losing his life. I understand they stated they had evidence he shot him, but the fatal incident was a whole nother situation on a whole nother day. And we all know how the city can get. That could have been anybody who made that fatal call. Till this day, nobody has been charged with that hit. But I'm going to leave this one open for discussion. I want to know y'all thoughts on the situation. Do you think Mooki was railroaded, or do you think that was a fair amount of time he received? Also, do you think childhood trauma dictates people's actions in their later years? Mooki, even how some would say Krishan was crashing out in the past. Let me know in the comments. Yeah, man, that's a crazy situation. Definitely crazy story. But I ain't gonna talk too much more about this one. Y'all leave it in the comments. I appreciate you if you made it to the end. That's another episode of the Baltimore Way. It's your boy Tony 2 times. Y'all already know it's all love, fam. I'm out. Yo, what's the word, fam? We got a deal for you so you can get your fashion right this summer to get 10% off your purchase at Cool Green Clothing. All you gotta do is click the link in the comments. I'm gonna pin it right there for you. Add your items for purchase in the cart. Before you complete your order, type in code 2x10TV to get 10% off your purchase. Again, be sure to tap that link because without that, you can't get your discount. And that's code 2TIMESTV10. We appreciate your love and support.